Hi everyone. Now, just in case you haven't been watching the previous two parts in this series, let me just catch you up. We're using little bits of lace and doilies and we're joining them together, and then we're sort of trying to use our intuition to make them all flow into each other so that we end up with one beautiful piece of cloth. And so you can see we've already done a little bit of beading, a little bit of stitching. Now we're going to concentrate a little bit more in this part 3 on beading. We'll take it a little bit further with beading. So you can see we did some scattered, and these big ones that we did 1, 2, 3 stitches out to the sides. I'm just looking now at doing a few lines of beads. So I'm just going to take a few, maybe 5 or something. And pull them all down the needle. See what I mean? They would come here and then I'd pop it there. And then I'm going to get these lovely little sprays. Now can you see it's sort of humped? If I wanted it to be flat I'd have gone a little bit further, but I quite like the humped. We can mix it up, but you know, if you wanted to do 5 and then just this far, and before you put your needle in, you'd end up with a little, like a caterpillar that, you know, humps itself up. So it's there's a lot of variety in just doing this. Oh, you don't need to do 5. Stick with it for the moment. Okay, now I've hit one that isn't going to go. I was trying to get away without the beading needle, so that one there doesn't want to go. Might take it off. Sometimes I try a different direction and then it's happy. Yeah, well those ones went. So I got, how many have we got now? 3. I might have to go for a beading needle eventually, but I don't really like to use them. Although it's mainly because I don't like threading them. See, this type here is quite old, but I may end up using it. So its eye is not at either end. It's actually here in the center. The needle splits in 2. I don't know if you can see that. So it's quite easy to thread. Let's have a look. See. And you can pull it right out like that. And that'll go through most things. It's very, very slim, but because it's very slim, see how it bends and everything. So I'll leave that as a last resort. And I shall try just thinner needles. You can buy beading needles that are normal. That one there is called a big eye needle because it's got that big eye in the center. Okay, where were we? Look, I'm not going to fuss. I've got 3 on, and just going to go with it. And we'll put that one out like that. And can you see how just doing something like that, it's really not that hard if you had the right size needle. Might try them one time. Yep, that one went. See, I'm picking the beads up with the tip of the needle. Far easier than holding it up and trying to. Oh, there's another dodgy one. Just that tiny bit smaller hole. Either side, so I don't keep picking it up. That worked, didn't it? Alright, so there we go. Put that in there. And so very quickly, really, but it looks so professional, so fancy. So if we go back to the original one here that we keep looking at, see how I've done it here? 3 or 4 or 2 or whatever I had out, and that looks really nice on flowers. Take it out like that. I mean, here I did big long strings, but it's the same, but I just did, you know, 4 and then in and then back out again, and you know, and continued it on that line. Otherwise it would just flop around, just if it was just joined here and here. Not that you can't do that, I'll show you both ways. All right. So that tiny little bit of beading here, just that one, those few there, you probably, you know, you don't need to be as heavily encrusted as my top there I've just shown you was. You just need some. Well, you don't even need some, but it is pretty. And that's about it. And finish going around that spoke, and then we'll show you some other little techniques. Alright, I've tried persevering. You can use different size beads. These are size 11, I think. They're tiny little seed beads. And you can use larger ones. There we go. Quite pretty. So let's say we wanted to do a whole string or something. And like I said, you could either do a few at once. Yeah. And then you can go back. I'll show you a few different ways. If you ever get a whole string of beads here and they won't go on, like you just got one in the middle that's stopping you, you can always crush it with a pair of pliers. Right, so say if I wanted to go in this direction beside that, I could go like that. So then we would do a line. And it wouldn't matter how many you use. If it went too far, like I've done 5 or something, 6 or something there, you can always come back up underneath and do a little stitch here. Underneath, you could come up, and that would anchor it, you know. So sometimes I prefer to just use beads on a string and thread them off that, because they're all already strung, you know. You can slip your needle down beside the string, and that works too. And go here. So I'll continue doing a few more things like that, but you've gotten that idea. We've got a few different little beading things going. Now another thing I would like to do is accentuate this a bit. You remember how we did these lines to hold it on? We just went out like that, extended this leaf. Well, you know, it would be nice to do something. We could either do some French knots with some beads on the ends of those, or, you know, we could do a line of stitching around it to make it show up. So we have ideas to complete. You could do some with French knots, you could do some sequins or something. Different coloured beads. These are sort of a beautiful one. They're brass, what do they call it now? Brass lined crystal. So pretty. I do love the check seed beads. So these are a very subtle bead. You could go a nice shiny one. These ones are very antique looking, and I thought that sort of fitted in with what I was doing here. See? These things here are, I like them. They're freshwater pearl beads, and they're not perfectly round. They've got a flat side. I just like the idea that they look antique, you know, they fit. I think they fit quite nicely, and there's different colours available. These nice pearly ones. You know, they got a slight bit of iridescent in them. So I was just thinking, well, you know, they make nice centres. That's something. They add a little something to it. So it's just, I got those out just to see. And I got out, oh yeah, some sequins. Just a few to see. But you know, they're quite nice too, aren't they? Just do one here. Right up. They've usually got a cupped shape. I like to have them with the cupped shape up. Right, so you can either do like I did with this bead over here and do like 3 stitches off to one side. Like, don't need to be using my beading needle for this because the hole's big enough. And that's okay. So, but that, I like doing the 3 because then it holds it. And it won't flip up. One more. Like the spokes. There we go, like the spokes of a wheel. There we go, we've held down that. And we've got a little bit extra shine in there. And instead of doing that, what I did then, you can use a bead, like a seed bead, something that's bigger than the hole. And you can put that on. And now can you see how that's, we've got that with the bead. And I'm just going to go back through that same hole. And that's it, that's plenty, that'll hold that on. So we've got choices of things that we can do. And it's good fun. So we could either do the spokes on the wheel, or we could layer them up. We could do a bead with a smaller, a sequin with a smaller one on top of that, and then maybe a bead on the end. So that's subtle. I like that. Where else? We may as well attach one of these that I was talking about before. Through that. And down. So I don't know how well that wants to stay there. I can do it twice. That's one thing I can do. And if I was still concerned, does it really matter? Pretty little thing. These beads are copper lined crystal. They've got a more pinky tinge. Oh, it's on a string or parts of it. That's good. That allows me to show you that idea. Right, see that? On a string? Well, if I wanted to, I could do this. I could go and thread them on like that, because they're already all in line. Do you see all the holes are all lined up? And so I'm just doing that. The string's still there, but now I can pull it off the string. That's a great cheat. Now I'm going to go there, right where I came up and started threading them on. And what it's going to do is curl around in a lovely little loop. And then I'm going to go the other side of the bead, or the circle of beads here, and I'm going to go and attach it there. So instead of flipping up, it's going to be held flat. Now doesn't that look nice? Quite simple, quite beautiful. Let's have a little closer look. That's where I've added some seed beads radiating out from the center. There we've got some beads that are just random. What else have we done? Nothing there yet. Here's where we added that lovely little freshwater pearl and that little ring of seed beads. We could catch it a few more areas if we wanted to, if it wouldn't lay flat. And here's our different ideas with the attaching sequins. I've got that one there. See if I can get it. There we go. Got that one there. That's got the 3 spokes of the wheel, 3 threads out from the center holding it. And then we did one with just a seed bead holding it. Then we did a big one with a smaller one on top and another seed bead in the center to hold that one. So, and here is where we've got our long fern that we're working on. And we did a long stripe and we did some smaller ones on the end. So I'm going to show you now, just so that we cover a few things here. On this again, one thing I didn't show you is this. That's a metallic thread that I did a chain stitch with. So let's have a go at that here and see how that adds anything. I am not a very blingy kind of person. I quite like to be subtle when I'm doing things like that, or make it, like I say, so it looks vintage or something. But that little bit of sparkle, little bit of texture, all of that works so nice together. Then I like a lot of different styles. It would be really hard to peg myself down and say, oh, I only like this or I only like that, because I like a lot of things. Now, can you see how the light is picking that up? So a chain, we come up and we go in close to where we came up. Out, I'm holding these threads out the way so that when I pass the needle underneath and up again, and as I pull it, it'll pull those threads around in that loop, but not completely. It's not a complete stitch. This is stopping it from completing, which is great. And if you do this, just continue, then you've got a line of chain, very similar to what I showed you before with the random chain, where we have it going in different directions. And instead of, if I was doing a random kind of chain, single ones, I would then anchor off there and come up somewhere else. But because I'm doing a full chain, I'm still going in there, but I'm coming up there and using that loop again. So very, very similar. But it's just another way to put in that little bit more decoration and hold a bit more down. So once again, I've got almost too much in one episode, so I'll stop. Next week or next episode, we'll finish it off. I'll do a little bit of stitching in the meantime to try and get further along, because you've already seen how to do it. And then we'll make our little pouch. I think I'll try and go out here. So that little, it just led us from one square to another, didn't it? And out the side. Picking up that lovely, delicate little chain stitch line. I'll just do a little bit of stitching on there, just to see if we can make it come together a bit better. Okay, look at these beads here that are just sort of floating there, aren't they? What can we make? We try that chain stitch again, seeing especially as I only have a single thread through this needle, it doesn't really show up very well, but it might be enough. We just follow that little line into the center. Might just have to add something else in there if I want to pick that up. So it's all about just letting the pattern talk to you. You know, you add a few things, like we had this fern, and I thought, oh, okay, I like the idea of attaching it with those spokes, and
or what happens if we put that on the end, and you just use it like a great project to develop your creativity, practice your stitching, and lose yourself. This is mindfulness in action, this is. Because I'm not trying to follow a pattern. I'm not trying to, I'm not going to get angry with myself if I do wrong. Because there is no wrong. So this is one of those things that, even though that doesn't show up much, it's certainly adding to the detail. Someone looking at this would go, wow, did you do all of that? But as you can see, it really is not taking me long to add in that little tiny bit there. So although I like the heavily encrusted and everything, and I do like to cheat quite a bit and not do something that takes months and months. Just something that's got the idea of it, and we had fun. Once it becomes not fun, that's the whole idea. It's not a chore. This is something fun to do. So what to do next? I think, look at those swirls, those lovely curls. Do like that. But I remember I used this to start with, this thick, darker bit of thread. And sometimes that catches your eye and you think, what was that for? I think I would like to try and blend that in somehow. So I'll have a go at that. Right, well this is what I decided to do. Remember I was talking about the thick thread. So I'm using some 2 strands of a lighter brown, but also it's also darker than most things. And so that's not going to stand out quite so much because I'm doing that. And hang on, I haven't done that one yet. Yeah, this one here. See, a few little stitches around it. Made it look like it was, that petal behind. So it doesn't take much to sort of blend these things in when they stand out like that, and you think, what did I do that for? Okay, well that's what I had in mind. And this here needs to be sorted too. See how dark that is in comparison? That's because it's a variegated thread. Sometimes it came through quite dark and I wasn't expecting it, but I'll work with it. Right, well that dark colour is blending in now, I think. There's that bit there. See, I've done some stitches outside of the white flower that really helps it to blend in. Same here. So if I go right back, you can't see any bits now that are sort of glaringly dark with no reason.
So another thing that I've been doing is on this little lovely fern or leaf, I've added in some of a gold colour, a pearl cotton, just some lines going out from the centre, and I've even added in a few French knots at the end, just to sort of give it a little bit more body. But I'll continue to play with this, and we'll see next time what we've ended up with, and then we'll finish it. We'll make it into a nice little purse or something, and that'll be that. So I hope you've enjoyed this little episode on beading. It's it can be deceptively simple, really, and add so much to your design. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and that'll be it. I think we'll come back next time. So thank you for watching. All my contact details are below, and I'll see you for part 4.